The Happy Hypocrite, A Fairy Tale for Tired Men by Sir Max Beerbohm. Narration by ElevenLabs. Professional voice clone, Anna Rita 2. It was a bright morning in Old Bond Street, and fat little Mr. Aeneas, the fashionable mask maker, was sunning himself at the door of his shop. His window was lined as usual with all kinds of masks, beautiful masks with pink cheeks, and absurd masks with protuberant chins. Curious Tripocryptera, Greek prosopa, copied from old tragic models, masks of paper for children, of fine silk for ladies, and of leather for working men, bearded or beardless, gilded or waxen, most of them indeed were waxen, big or little masks. And in the middle of this vain galaxy hung the presentment of a cyclops face, carved cunningly of gold, with a great sapphire in its brow. The sun gleamed brightly on the window and on the bald head and varnished shoes of fat little Mr. Aeneas. It was too early for any customers to come, and Mr. Aeneas seemed to be greatly enjoying his leisure in the fresh air. He smiled complacently as he stood there, and well he might, for he was a great artist, and was patronized by several crowned heads, and not a few of the nobility. Only the evening before, Mr. Brummel had come into his shop and ordered a light summer mask, wishing to evade for a time the jealous vigilance of Lady Otterton. It pleased Mr. Aeneas to think that his art made him the recipient of so many high secrets. He smiled as he thought of the titled spendthrifts who, at this moment, peruse behind his masterpieces, passed unscathed among their creditors. He was the secular confessor of his day, always able to give absolution, a unique position. The street was as quiet as a village street. At an open window over the way, a handsome lady, wrapped in a muslin peignoir, sat sipping her cup of chocolate. It was La Signora Gambogi, and Mr. Aeneas made her many elaborate bows. This morning, however, her thoughts seemed far away, and she did not notice the little man's polite efforts. Nettled at her negligence, Mr. Aeneas was on the point of retiring into his shop, when he saw Lord George Hell hastening up the street, with a posy of wild flowers in his hand. "His lordship is up betimes," he said to himself. "An early visit to La Signora, I suppose." Not so, however. His lordship came straight towards the mask shop. Once he glanced up at Signora's window and looked deeply annoyed when he saw her sitting there. He came quickly into the shop. "I want the mask of a saint," he said. "Mask of a saint, my lord?" "Certainly," said Mr. Aeneas briskly. "With or without halo. His Grace the Bishop of St. Aldred's always wears his with a halo. Your lordship does not wish for a halo?" "Certainly, if your lordship will allow me to take his measurement." "I must have the mask today," Lord George said. "Have you none ready-made?" "Ah, I see. Required for immediate wear," murmured Mr. Aeneas dubiously. "You see, your lordship takes a rather large size," and he looked at the floor. "Julius!" he cried suddenly to his assistant, who was putting the finishing touches to a mask of Barbarossa, which the young king of Nuremberg was to wear at his coronation the following week. "Julius, do you remember the saint's mask we made for Mr. Ripsby a couple of years ago?" "Yes, sir," said the boy. "It's stored upstairs." "I thought so," replied Mr. Aeneas. "Mr. Ripsby only had it on hire. Step upstairs, Julius, and bring it down. I fancy it is just what your lordship would wish. Spiritual, yet handsome." "Is it a mask that is even as a mirror of true love?" Lord George asked gravely. "It was made precisely as such," the mask-maker answered. "In fact, it was made for Mr. Ripsby to wear at his silver wedding, and was very highly praised by the relatives of Mrs. Ripsby. Will your lordship step into my little room?" So Mr. Aeneas led the way to his parlour behind the shop. He was elated by the distinguished acquisition to his clientele, for hitherto Lord George had never patronised his business. He bustled round his parlour and insisted that his lordship should take a chair and a pinch from his snuff-box, while the saint's mask was being found. Lord George's eye travelled along the rows of framed letters from great personages, which lined the walls. He did not see them, though, for he was calculating the chances that La Gambogi had not observed him as he entered the mask shop. He had come down so early that he had thought she would still be abed. That sinister old proverb, La jalouse se lève de bonne heure, rose in his memory. His eye fell unconsciously on a large round mask made of dull silver, with the features of a human face traced over its surface in faint filigree. "Your lordship wonders what mask that is," chirped Mr. Aeneas, tapping the thing with one of his little fingernails. "What is that mask?" Lord George murmured absently. "I ought not to divulge, my lord," said the mask-maker, "but I know your lordship would respect a professional secret, a secret of which I am pardonable proud. This," he said, "is a mask for the sun-god, Apollo, whom heaven bless." "You astound me," said Lord George, "of no less a person, I do assure you. When Jupiter his father made him lord of the day, Apollo craved that he might sometimes see the doings of mankind in the hours of night time. Jupiter granted so reasonable a request, and when next Apollo had passed over the sky and hidden in the sea, and darkness had fallen on all the world, he raised his head above the waters, that he might watch the doings of mankind in the hours of night time. But," Mr. Aeneas added with a smile, "his bright countenance made light all the darkness. Men rose from their couches or from their revels, wondering that day was so soon come, and went to their work, and Apollo sank weeping into the sea. 'Surely,' he cried, 'it is a bitter thing that I alone of all the gods may not watch the world in the hours of night time. For in those hours, as I am told, men are even as gods are. They spill the wine and are wreathed with roses. Their daughters dance in the light of torches. They laugh to the sound of flutes. On their long couches they lie down at last, and sleep comes to kiss their eyelids. None of these things may I see. Wherefore the brightness of my beauty is even as a curse to me, and I would put it from me.' And as he wept, Vulcan said to him, 'I am not the least cunning of the gods, nor the least pitiful. Do not weep, for I will give you that which shall end your sorrow, nor need you put from you the brightness of your beauty.' And Vulcan made a mask of dull silver, and fastened it across his brother's face. And that night, thus masked, the sun-god rose from the sea and watched the doings of mankind in the night time. Nor any longer were men abashed by his bright beauty, for it was hidden by the mask of silver. Those whom he had so often seen haggard over their daily tasks, he saw feasting now and wreathed with red roses. He heard them laugh to the sound of flutes, as their daughters danced in the red light of torches. And when at length they lay down upon their soft couches, and sleep kissed their eyelids, he sank back into the sea and hid his mask under a little rock in the bed of the sea. Nor have men ever known that Apollo watches them often in the night time, but fancied it to be some pale goddess. "I myself have always thought it was Diana," said Lord George Hell. "An error, my lord," said Mr. Aeneas with a smile. "Ecce signum," and he tapped the mask of dull silver. "Strange," said his lordship. "And pray, how comes it that Apollo has ordered of you this new mask?" "He has always worn 12 new masks every year, inasmuch as no mask can endure for many nights the near brightness of his face, before which even a mask of the best and purest silver soon tarnishes and wears away. Centuries ago Vulcan tired of making so very many masks, and so Apollo sent Mercury down to Athens to the shop of Phoron, a Phoenician mask-maker of great skill. Phoron made Apollo's masks for many years, and every month Mercury came to his shop for a new one. When Phoron died, another artist was chosen, and, when he died, another, and so on through all the ages of the world. Conceive, my lord, my pride and pleasure when Mercury flew into my shop one night last year, and made me Apollo's warrant holder. It is the highest privilege that any mask maker can desire. And when I die, said Mr. Aeneas with some emotion, Mercury will confer my post upon another. And do they pay you for your labour? Lord George asked. Mr. Aeneas drew himself up to his full height, such as it was. In Olympus, my lord, he said, they have no currency. For any mask-maker, so high a privilege is its own reward. Yet the sun-god is generous. He shines more brightly into my shop than into any other, nor does he suffer his rays to melt any waxen mask made by me, until its wearer doff it, and it be done with. At this moment Julius came in with the Ripsby mask. I must ask your lordship's pardon for having kept you so long, pleaded Mr. Aeneas, but I have a large store of old masks, and they are imperfectly catalogued. It certainly was a beautiful mask, with its smooth pink cheeks and devotional brows. It was made of the finest wax. Lord George took it gingerly in his hands and tried it on his face. It fitted à merveille. Is the expression exactly as your lordship would wish? Asked Mr. Aeneas. Lord George laid it on the table and studied it intently. I wish it were more as a perfect mirror of true love, he said at length. It is too calm, too contemplative. Easily remedied, said Mr. Aeneas. Selecting a fine pencil, he deftly drew the eyebrows closer to each other. With a brush steeped in some scarlet pigment, he put a fuller curve upon the lips. And behold, it was the mask of a saint who loves dearly. Lord George's heart throbbed with pleasure. And for how long does your lordship wish to wear it? Asked Mr. Aeneas. I must wear it until I die, replied Lord George. Kindly be seated then, I pray, rejoined the little man, for I must apply the mask with great care. Julius, you will assist me. So, while Julius heated the inner side of the waxen mask over a little lamp, Mr. Aeneas stood over Lord George, gently smearing his features with some sweet-scented pomade. Then he took the mask and powdered its inner side, quite soft and warm now, with a fluffy puff. Keep quite still for 1 instant, he said, and clapped the mask firmly on his lordship's upturned face. So soon as he was sure of its perfect adhesion, he took from his assistant's hand a silver file and a little wooden spatula, with which he proceeded to pare down the edge of the mask, where it joined the neck and ears. At length all traces of the join were obliterated. It remained only to arrange the curls of the lordly wig over the waxen brow. The disguise was done. When Lord George looked through the eyelets of his mask into the mirror that was placed in his hand, he saw a face that was saintly, itself a mirror of true love. How wonderful it was! He felt his past was a dream. He felt he was a new man indeed. His voice went strangely through the mask's parted lips, as he thanked Mr. Aeneas. Proud to have served your lordship, said that little worthy, pocketing his fee of 50 guineas, while he bowed his customer out. When he reached the street, Lord George nearly uttered a curse through those sainted lips of his. For there, right in his way, stood La Gambogi, with a small pink parasol. She laid her hand upon his sleeve and called him softly by his name. He passed her by without a word. Again she confronted him. I cannot let go so handsome a lover, she laughed, even though he spurn me. Do not spurn me, George. Give me your posy of wild flowers. Why, you never looked so lovingly at me in all your life. Madam, said Lord George sternly, I have not the honour to know you." And he passed on. The lady gazed after her lost lover with the blackest hatred in her eyes. Presently she beckoned across the road to a certain spy, and the spy followed him.